Ok, pronto, vou só começar aqui os slides que eu esqueci de fazer isso. There we go. Ok. Rust. Vamos falar de Rust. Ok, a minha talk é sobre Rust. Eu comecei a aprender Rust há cerca de 6 meses, foi quando entrei na empresa que estou agora. A empresa que eu estou agora, basicamente faz... Estou a meter, tipo, as cópias aqui do lado. Tipo, a empresa que eu estou... eu disse que ia fazer em inglês. Eu tenho que dar esta talk para a semana, tipo, na Áustria, por isso que eu venho a fazer em inglês. Hi, everyone. So today we're going to talk about Rust. So I'm generally not a Rust developer. I've been doing Rust for about 6 months, so for about the time that I joined my last company. So it's a very small startup. There's like literally 3 people. It's great. 10 out of 10 would recommend. We don't work on Fridays. It's great. So that's the main thing. So my name is Sara. I'm, again, a founding engineer at a company called Axo. So you can check us out at axo.dev. We mostly make CLIs and stuff for the Rust community. And by the way, the Rust community is great, at least compared to the front-end community. So I'm also a front-end developer. So one thing that is kind of, how do I say that? It's kind of a stereotype is that like front-end developers aren't real developers because JavaScript isn't a real language, whatever the fuck that means. And like CSS isn't a real language. I don't think actually CSS is a real language, but whatever. So it's like, the thing about it is I've never actually been to college and I was never very academically smart, probably because I have severe ADHD. Now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That's why I couldn't focus. So I failed math in high school as a developer, which is possible, apparently. And I think that one thing about failing math and not going to college that it gives you is that your brain will never let you forget that you didn't go to college and that you failed math. Because otherwise it doesn't make any difference. And I think I always saw Rust as this real language. So my point is, and what I tell people is that if I can learn Rust, you can learn Rust. I failed math in high school. It's not, I mean, it is hard. All programming is hard and pain, but it's not impossible. Maybe don't make it like a video game with it. That sounds painful. So besides I knew some C# and Godot script, which are 2 languages that are used by Unity and Godot, which are 2 video game engines. So that's the only other things that I knew besides JavaScript. So, I mean, and CSS and HTML, whatever. But so I knew JavaScript, and I used it for Node and for the browser. But besides that, I knew some C# and Godot script, which is kind of like Python, which is the front end of the back end. And that doesn't really help. Oh my God, my bank, apparently the bank in Germany that I use, called N26, uses Python as the back end. And I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. I've been thinking about it, and it's kind of weird that they use Python for the back end of a bank. Okay, so I'm here to tell you that Rust is actually pretty fun. I mean, not actually fun, but nerd fun. It's good. You're gonna like it. And if you don't, I don't care. I don't get paid. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna build a CLI. I don't usually do talks where I just talk for 30 minutes because I can't do it. I don't like my voice that much, so that is not happening. What we're gonna do is that you're gonna stare at my screen as I try to code, and you're gonna tell me that I'm making a mistake. And then we're gonna fix it together like a family. So, what we're gonna build is I don't know if you ever heard of there's a CLI called cow says or something, which is just basically a cow that says something. So that's what we're gonna do in Rust. So we're gonna be able to pass a parameter called a message, and the cow is gonna tell you a message, and we're gonna be able to pass a parameter that's just a fact, and the cow is gonna tell you a random fact, which means that for this talk, I actually was looking for a useless fact API. I couldn't find one, so I made one as well. So if you wanna use that, that's great. It gives you, as the name says, it gives you a ton of useless facts like this, which is honestly pretty incredible. And one of the categories is just Iceland, because Iceland is great. I love Iceland. Yeah, they're great. You should all go to Iceland when you can. When you're no longer in college and you can have a job. Okay, cool. So let's start. I'm gonna open this in Visual Studio Code because I don't hate myself, so I don't use Vim. This may be slow because my computer is kind of dying, and let me change this to a light theme. So theme, Night Owl, GitHub Light, sure, is that good? Yeah, mesmo. Could you read with the dark theme? Oh, okay, with that then. Okay, where's Night Owl? Night Owl, okay. Beautiful, wow. Okay, so a couple of things you need to know about Rust. I am not gonna install Rust, but it's just a curl command to install Rust. It's quite easy. And Rust does come with a package manager called Cargo. So that's why there's a cargo.toml. You can think of it as like NPM on steroids. Because it also does testing, it does building, it does all of that stuff. You don't have to install anything else. There's one, it's called Cargo. So it's great, and it will create a file like this if you just run cargo init. Yeah, so the one file that I have is called main.rs. And so what we have right now is just that it just prints this cow, and it always just says sup. That's it. So how do you build this? So if I run cargo build, which also does build, yes. Okay, it will just tell me that it built. So that's not what we want. So what we want is say, oh, this terminal is called warp, if anyone is wondering. Probably someone is wondering, and this terminal is called warp. And I don't know how to make things, oh, zoom. That's not zoom. I'm gonna go with that's not what I wanted, but sure, mate, sure. Warp settings, maybe? I tried to do the command thing already, it didn't work, okay? I feel like that's an important thing to say. Why does the settings have another setting thing? That's so, God, Jesus Christ. Okay, oh, there we go, font size 16. I think I typed 17, doesn't matter. Okay, that's bigger now. Okay, so we can run cargo run. And if we run cargo run, that's when it actually, as the name says, it runs it and you have a little cow. And the cow says sup. Like we can change it, which is obviously just a text. You can say lol, I don't care. But yeah, it will just say the same thing that it says there. So one thing that you should know is that Rust is heavily typed. So if something doesn't match the type you tell it does, then Rust will not let you build it. In my experience with Rust in the last 6 months, I think I had one runtime error. And turns out that was a bug in the library. So that's pretty good. Except the bug in the library part, that was fucked up. But it's pretty good that I only had like one thing. Like as someone who's used to JavaScript, I have used TypeScript, but TypeScript isn't, I don't know, like I still have so many bugs with TypeScript. I don't know, people say it helps, I don't think it helps. Okay, yeah, so this is a VS Code plugin that tells you the type of something, so it runs cargo in the background, and it tells you the type of something. So yeah, so creating a variable, as you can see, is you can do so let, and you say let text equals, oh my God. And that's it, you need this, like the, the thing. Because you don't need it in JavaScript. Oh, by the way, you don't need it in JavaScript, if you didn't know that. Because no one told me that until like 6 years after I had learned JavaScript, and I felt like my life was a lie. So you don't actually need it in JavaScript unless the next line starts with an array, which is very random, but yeah. So that's how you make a variable. You can also make constants, but constants you have to determine the text of it. So if I say const text, so usually also constants are written in uppercase, but that's a stylistic choice. You can do whatever you want. I'm not your mother. And I type, oh my God, again. It will give me an error because it says text, okay, you need to define the type. So the type in this case is str, which is, and str, and then you can use it. So if you want to build constants for like numbers and words and stuff like that, that is the best way. But you also do have to define the type. It is at initialization. So that's the only thing. Okay, so, and how do you pass this into a function? So if I have this, let me delete this and pass the text into this, and then you will give me another error saying this does not take a function. This does not take a thing. So, and then we get text, and we say, okay, what's the type of the text? And we can see it in here is an str, which str is like a small version of a string, basically. And there we go. And now if I run cargo again, it will tell me, oh my God, instead. So that is like the very basics of Rust. My talk is done. No, I'm kidding. That would have been great. So now we have to make a CLI. So one thing that we need to make a CLI is so Rust also runs a lot like the JavaScript ecosystem. For the benefits and the problems of it, there are so many packages. And so Rust, again, uses cargo for that. And if you want to install a package, which in our case, we'll install a package for doing like CLI parsing of arguments, which makes it way easier than you like just cutting things, like cutting text. And for that, you can just type cargo add, and then the name of the package, which in our case is called clap. And that will go to the crates.io, which is like the NPM of Rust, I guess, and it will, was so loud now, what the hell? And you will fetch it, and yeah, I don't know if I'm actually connected to the internet now that I checked it. Am I connected to the internet? I am. I'm connected to my phone, which does have German internet, which is like not real internet. Oh, there we go. It's not real internet. It's like it's email. You know, like oh my god, it's like the internet of like the Alpha Pendular. It's like that, but everywhere in the country. It's like email internet. Okay, so now if I open cargo without this, so cargo.toml, you can see that we have clap. And one thing that we also need from clap is that we need something called derive. And the way that cargo works is that by default, it will not install everything in that package. So as you can see, these are the features that we have that are installed by default with the plus and the ones that are not with the minus. And we need derive. So how do you do that? Manually. I mean, maybe there's a command line, I don't know. So you get here and you open up the, oh yeah, this is toml, which is like not the best, but it is what it is. And so you get the version. Okay, you need the things, version. And then you pass the version again. And then what we do is we say features, again with the things. And then we do, so that has to be an array, and we pass derive. And now I should get an error, apparently, expected. Oh, I actually don't think this needs this. I don't know how to use toml, to be fair. I don't think anyone knows how to use toml, except the guy that made toml. So apparently, do you know what toml means, supposedly? It means Tom's obvious language, or something like that. And it's like the most non-obvious thing there is. So now we have this, and nothing should change if I get cargo run. So cargo run, there we go. And it should do the exact same thing. It's waiting on, so the thing is that VS Code under the hood, it runs like a lot of builds and stuff like that to make sure that your types are correct. So sometimes you'll get this if you're using VS Code. If you're using Vim, you won't, but you also won't know the types. So take what you get. So now it's installing the other part. And so now we can actually create a CLI. So the first thing that we need to do is to pass what things we actually want in this CLI, right? That makes sense. And for that, we need to create a struct. A struct is basically a big type. I don't know why it's big, but it's a type. And so we can create a struct like so. So I come here and I say struct, and I call it CLI, for example. And we're gonna have, how many things can you pass into the CLI, right? You can pass two things. You can pass a message or you can pass a fact. So if I say message, I need to pass it what is the type of this thing. And in our case, it's an option. So the idea of an option is that you can pass something or nothing. But if you pass something, it has to be whatever is inside of this. And what is inside of this is a string. So that afterwards we can do something like cargo run and then pass something like this with the MSG and just say sup instead. So that's cool. And the other thing we can do is pass a fact, and that one we actually just want to say like give me a fact instead. We don't want to tell it the fact because we want it to give me a random fact. So we can just say bool. And there we go. So that's our type. So what we can do now is that we need to parse the CLI. My phone is like being very bad today. So what we need to do right now is that we need to parse the arguments we actually send to the CLI. So to do that, we can say let CLI equals CLI, which is that baby over there, and then we call parse with no, it's actually 2, but I have the thing on. So if I do this, this is not gonna work because it doesn't actually understand what this is. And that's because we haven't told her, okay, Rust is a her now, apparently. There you go. Just a very feminine programming language, apparently. So we haven't told it, there we go. We haven't told it that it's like this struct is actually a CLI. Like we want this to use clap. So, and for that, there's like this really weird syntax that has this thing where you can tell it like, okay, so this is gonna derive, and then what is this gonna derive? This is gonna derive the parser. And as you can see, like you say, like this is gonna derive the parser, which means you can parse it. I know, I'm a genius. I know, right? Jesus Christ. And it's also going to derive debug. And so the debug thing is, if I try to console log something here, if I didn't have the debug, it would give me an error saying like, you can't console log this. And so speaking of console log, let's console log this in Rust. So let's see what the CLI is. So if I do print ln, so print ln will actually print you a line, which is what ln stands for. And then you need to pass it so something like this will tell it, not this, that's trash. This, there we go. Sorry, so I have also a Linux, which does not have a Portuguese keyboard, so now I'm just very confused. And then you pass it whatever you want it to show. So if I say CLI, this will actually, again, give me an error. And that's because by default, nothing is formatted in Rust when you give it a print line. So if you want it formatted, you need to do this, and then it will be okay. And then can you imagine if it actually wasn't okay? This has happened plenty of times in other talks. Main panicked, it's positional, it must take a value. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Let me remove this. The cargo run. And now we should get, dude, I can't pass this because it's like expecting something else. There we go. So now we should get message none. Okay, that's cool. But we actually do want to pass a message. So the first thing that we need to do is also derive some stuff from in here. So if I go back, I need to tell it this is an argument. I don't know why I keep referring to Rust as her. That's so weird, seriously. It's really bothering me. What the hell? God. Okay, so it's an argument, right? So it's an argument, and we wanted to, so two things we want to say is we want to say long and short. So these two things are important because it means we can pass it as MSG, or we can pass it as M. So, and this one is the same thing. So just literally copy and paste this baby over here, and paste it in here. And now, if I do cargo run, it does fact false, message none. And if I pass the message, did I pass the message? I did, okay. So it says now that the message is sub because I need to pass it like this. There we go. So now we get the message, and it says some, which does make sense because we said the message is an option, so it doesn't have to be there. So how can we actually pass the message down to the cow? We can check, like, is message a thing? And if message is a thing, please give it to the cow. Cool. That's a sentence I never thought I would say. There we go. Okay, sorry. So if statements are just like if statements literally everywhere else. So if I say if CLI.msg, and then I open this, you will see something very, oh my God. Did I do it? Oh my God, I did it. I'm a genius. God. So now if I try to print this, print line again, print whatever, that's also good. So print just doesn't print it in a line. And then I do the CLI.msg, you will see that I will get an error here because the thing is, it expected a Boolean, but what it actually got was a string. So you can't just if something if it exists. That's not a thing in Rust. So you can only if something is a Boolean. So for example, for the fact, we can if it, which I don't think is also a sentence. But we can like say if CLI that fact, but for this we can't. So there's this really cool thing in Rust that is if let sum, which is very confusing at the start. But if I say if let sum and I say message, okay, there we go. If I say if let sum message equals CLI.msg, this means that inside of these parentheses, message exists. So this will only run if message is sum. This is very confusing. You really don't have to. It took me like a while to like make sense of this. But it basically says like if this message exists and is equal to CLI.message, then run this. And now if I put it in here, you'll see that there is absolutely no error. And if there is, it's completely unrelated, I promise. I'm very smart. So actually there is no error. So now if I do cargo run M, there is an error in another thing, but fine, whatever. So yes, that works. So now what we can do is just say, okay, that's cool. So we can just pass the message to the cow and we're done. And you're like, no, we're not. We're actually not done. And that's because this is a type of string, but it expected an str, which is a slice of a string. So you can do as str. And that will fix the problem. And now if I run it, it should actually tell me sub. And it does. Great. I wasn't very hopeful, to be fair. Okay. So the next thing that we need is to do the fact thing. So if I do the fact thing, I can check if CLI.fact, and that will work because, again, this is a bool. Oh my God, the keyboard. Because this is a bool. So now I do have a fact. So I can print the facts. So print, and then do this, and wow, okay, that's cool. That's cool. I dig it. I completely forgot what I was going to do. Oh, there we go. ADHD. ADHD is a hard thing. Okay, yeah. So this is missing this thing here, this baby. There we go. So if I do this now, you will see that nothing will show up because it never runs, because CLI, that fact is not true. But if I change this for an F, you can see that the only thing that runs is true. Okay, so now we actually have to fetch things from an API. So to fetch things from an API, again, we're gonna use a package. So we're gonna actually add two packages. We're gonna add cargo add survey and request, but like it's very badly written request. I think it's like this. It's the Rust people are interesting. That's called Tabby Cat, by the way. It's great. Yeah, it's, there we go, because writing request would be too hard. There we go. So we need to install survey. What survey does is that it parses JSON, and what request does is it does requests. I know, mind blown. So, but one thing about request is that it runs async, and teaching async Rust is painful. So we're not gonna do that. So I'm gonna go to the cargo again, and I'm gonna do the same thing I did here, but for request. And I need, this is the version. This is the fun part of Rust, is like copying and pasting shit in cargo.toml. And I need to pass blocking here. So this means that I can block stuff. But since Rust is really fast, and hopefully my API will be fast because it's on Cloudflare, we're fine. I don't know if I need anything from survey. I think there was something that I needed, but I need to go to my notes. And by notes, I mean literally the GitHub repo and scroll through it. Yeah, okay, yeah. No, I also need JSON here, and I need derive in the other one because it's the same reason we need derive on the first one. Like we need to derive stuff from it, which is like the little hashtag thing, because like that did not used to be the way you did Rust. But now it is, because this is the world we live in. I don't know what that means. Yeah, so we get this, and we also get derive, so we get all the fancy stuff that we have at the top, and now we have these two things, and I'm gonna run, no, get out. Gotta go run. Okay, cool. So we have the API we wanna get. We want this API, which I have the thing here, and one thing I can do is just create a const here, so let me create a const called API URL, and that is going to be equal to this, which is, again, obviously the API URL. So now I just need to say that this is an str. And one thing that we can do now is that we can actually fetch this API. I know, no one saw that coming. But I can, so say like let body equals, okay, let this thing finish, otherwise I won't get any like, oh, there you go. Request, blocking, it's doing its thing. Okay, let me import request. No, I don't need to import request. It's just VS, my computer is like, needs to be cleaned. By clean, I mean burned. It's so slow right now. There, oh my God, what a cute baby. I can't believe you did it. So get, and to get, we just pass in the URL, so which is the API URL. See, this is what I mean by this computer needs to be burned. So we pass it the API URL. And what this will do, as you can see, is that this actually returns something called a future. And basically a future is a promise. So, but we don't want a promise because otherwise I'll have to teach you async Rust, and you don't deserve that. So what we're gonna do is instead of request get, we're gonna do request blocking get, and that will return a result, which is way better than a promise, which is basically the same thing, but different. Just pretend that makes sense. So if I do this, and we get this result, which I can then, one thing that we can do that I should actually like kind of showed you, is that we can match on stuff. So I can match if the body, and then I can say like, okay, is this, get out, Jesus. Okay, no, literally okay, like is this okay? And then that gives me a response, and then in the response, I can just print a response. So println, this baby, but like in here, and then RSP. And then I will do the same thing, but for error. Actually, no, I won't do the same thing for error. So if there is an error, what we do is that we do like, I don't know, print error bad. There we go, and then this thing needs this, and this thing needs this, and this. Okay, so then we should be able to get either the error or the response. So that's a really good thing that we have for, oh, I thought he was telling me that I was running out of time. So now we get the response. So, but this response is not JSON. As you can see, this is like text. Yes, not JSON. Those are two completely different things apparently now. Okay, so what do we do now? Okay, so if there is a response, what we can do is do print rs response.json. But this will give me an error because that JSON, where is that? That JSON actually requires a type. So you need to tell it what is the type of your JSON. So we're going to create a new struct, and the struct is going to be called fact. So fact, blah, blah, blah. And this has a category, which is a string. And this also has a fact, which is also a string. So let's try and use it. And then, so to pass in the fact, I actually don't remember how you do it. So it's this, then this, and then this, and then this, which is like not good. But it is what it is. And let me call it fact. And we need to derive serialize and deserialize. So these are two things that are used to, again, serialize and deserialize. So we do this thing, the weird thing again. We do derive. And then we can do serialize from Serde and deserialize from Serde. And now we should still get an error because, oh, and we need debug. See, I got the error of the debug thing. You can't do it. Can't do it. Okay, there we go. And now we shouldn't get an error, I think, maybe. Let's see what happens. It's running it. It's going to the API. Oh my God, thank God. Okay, see, you got a fact with a category and all of that stuff. So that's cool. But I don't really want to keep no, wait, no, that's actually correct. That's actually good. We're doing good, y'all. We're getting there. Okay, so let's create a let called text. And the text will be equal to this thing, so response.json, and the response.json of the fact. If I can delete, there we go. And so, but the issue is this also returns a result. So there's one thing that we can do that is using this. And what this means is whatever happens, just either error out or give me the result. Just don't make me do 10 matches inside of each other. But then you get an error because our function doesn't actually return a result. Supposedly it returns nothing. So that's what we need to change. So to pass the return type of a function, you do this little baby thing and you say the type. So result takes two things. It takes, the first thing is what is actually returned if it's okay. And in our case, nothing is returned. So we just need to pass this. And in the other case, we need to get the error from request. Did it actually import it from request? It did. Isn't that incredible? Expected enum found unit type this. Okay, no, that does make sense. And now we can do the same thing here and just pass the JSON into here, and that is way cleaner. We don't need this because error bad is not a good error message either way, so that's fine. And now we should be kind of okay. We're not okay. Oh no, this makes sense. Okay, so we have the body. And one thing that we want to do is that whatever happens in here, we actually just want to return okay without anything. Because the reality is, it's gonna be okay, y'all. But it's gonna be okay unless there's an error, and if there's an error, you already panicked. It already gave me an error before, so we're fine. So think of result as in like, it can return either okay or not okay. And in our case, it will always return okay because the error will come from here, because this will catch the error and show it to me. So if I do this and try to run it, it will give me the error. So that's fine, we don't care. What do we want? We just want the okay. So we have the body. So now I can literally just say, so call the cow and pass it body that, what is it? Oh, it's fact. Oh God, that scared me. I was like, holy shit, I'm done. That as str. And now I think that should just work. Okay, so if I just run it with f, we should be able to get a random fact with the cow. There's an island that friends in Spain takes turns owning every 6 months. That honestly makes sense. Weirdly enough, that makes sense. So yeah, so now we can pass a message and we can pass a random fact, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this is basically what I wanted to show you. So it's like the bare bones of a Rust CLI. There's way more things to learn, but I think like by this you get like a kind of small idea of how Rust works and what are the things that you need to like, you know, look out for. I would honestly advise you to use VS Code with Rust because of these things are very useful. They're also very overwhelming, but you take what you get. You can't have everything. So yeah, I think that was it. I don't think I have anything else. So let me just go back here and do this thing. And yeah, live coding and prayers. Okay, if you want to see the repo for this, which is literally what I just did, is at Vieira/Rust for all. And yeah, thank you. If you have any questions, please let me know. Why?
Boa tarde.
Olá.
Posso falar?
Claro.
Pelo que percebi, só recentemente começou a usar a linguagem, certo?
Sim.
Mas qual é que foi a sua primeira impressão quando a teve que usar? Ou seja, foi sempre assim positiva e
Ah,
achou
não,
muito fácil ou foi muito gradual?
Dude, no, God. Tipo, a minha primeira impressão foi bué, tipo, I hate this compiler, porque é tipo, eu acho que isto também é porque eu ter muito mais experiência em tipo, again, the script is Python, so like everything just, it doesn't have a compiler, basically. Então eu estou habituada a tipo, sabes, tipo, compilas alguma, tipo, corres no browser, estás a ver, isso der erro, dá erro. Enquanto aqui não é assim, é tipo, não corre mesmo. E estás tipo, I just want to try this, and Rust is like, no, fuck you. You have to fix the times. Por isso, eu acho que ao início é um bocado frustrante por causa disso, porque não consegues simplesmente, tipo, you can't just build something. That's just not how it works. Mas, tipo, passado um bocado começas, tipo, a gostar da cena de compilador, porque na realidade depois não tens erros nenhuns. Praticamente, tipo, é um bocado incrível isso. Mas não, a minha primeira experiência foi tipo, what the fuck. Yeah.
Oh, aqui, boa tarde. Aqui, sim.
Ai, desculpa, eu não sabia que havia duas pessoas com o microfone.
Assim, eu achei o tutorial interessante, mas isto foi tipo ver um tutorial no YouTube ou 2 de speed. Foi muita informação assim, tipo, muito rápido, deu para perceber pouco. Por isso queria-te perguntar que tipos de tutoriais é que recomendas, porque assim eu ia procurar no Google, não vai aparecer tão bom.
Eles têm uma... They have like a book. So you can like, if you go to fazer a documentação deles, eles têm tipo Rust Book, que foi escrito por um pessoal que ajudou a escrever o Rust, que normalmente é o que eu recomendo às pessoas. Tipo, tem tudo lá. Tipo, tudo o que queiras aprender, até tipo, podes fazer APIs com Rust.
Se vale mesmo a pena ler o livro, é que o C, tipo, eu sei o livro é fixe, mas...
Não, este livro eu acho que é... Tipo, isto é... não, este tipo vale a pena, tipo, também podes ir vendo aos bocados. Mas tipo... É bué diferente, eu acho que é bué diferente isto. Porque é tipo, isto é uma cena na net que foi feita por pessoal que fez tipo o Rust e que está a continuar a usar. E é tipo, tu programas uma cena, tipo, fazes mesmo uma cena, eles ensinam-te a usar cargo, ensinam-te a usar tudo. Eu acho que por acaso é um bocado incrível. Tipo, foi a cena que eu usei para aprender a maior parte das coisas. E se ralhar com a minha patroa e perguntar tipo, I don't understand what the fuck is happening.
Ok, obrigado.
Nada.
Então, a minha pergunta é, em quanto tempo é que nós ficamos realmente bons a programar em Rust? Tipo, quanto tempo é que você demorou?
Eu acho que tipo, a cena é, what does it mean to actually get good? I still don't think I'm good at JavaScript. E tipo, estou a programar JavaScript tipo há 8 anos, tipo... Like, acho que a cena é, tipo, if I want to make something in Rust, at this point I can probably figure out how to make it. Eu acho que a cena, tipo, you get good at understanding errors, eu acho que isso é tipo... Para mim foi tipo 5 meses ou assim. Mas eu não tive o tempo todo a programar Rust quando lá tipo, eu entrei como front-end. Mas, demoras alguns meses, mas nada fora deste mundo. Porque é mais a cena de perceber os erros do compilador e saber onde... É a mesma cena que todos, honestamente. É tipo,
Olá.
Olá.
Como era uma talk acerca de Rust, eu estava à espera que se tivesse falado sobre o Borrow Checker, mas eu sei que isso estava para uma talk para o resto da tarde.
Tipo, eu pensei em meter isso, mas pensei que isso ia assustar um bocado as pessoas. Tipo, a cena do Rust é que, tipo, imagina que tens um string, tipo, não podes usá-lo, tipo, infinitas vezes. Like, you have to borrow it, ou tens que, tipo, everything has ownership. Então tu tens, tipo, transfer ownership from one place to the other, mas, tipo, explicar isso em 20 minutos é muito complicado. Por isso é que eu não meti.
A minha pergunta ia ser precisamente essa. Em linguagens como Python e em JavaScript, a preocupação com a memória não é tanta como uma linguagem como o C, C++ ou Rust. Como é que foi essa transição, principalmente tendo em conta o Borrow Checker?
Não, a cena que me fez mais diferença na altura foi o Borrow Checker. Tipo, primeiro que eu percebesse o que eu queria dizer, tipo, to owned, ou, tipo, tem uma cena que é tipo, to owned significa, tipo, it's yours now, you keep it now. E, tipo, eu acho que é, tipo, é um mind shift bem grande. Porque, tipo, tu não estás habituada, ou habituado, or whatever, tipo, a teres que pensar nisso, na realidade, tipo, se o JavaScript estiver lento, tipo, estás um bocado a cagar. É verdade. E, tipo, a cena também, os programadores têm sempre, tipo, ou máquinas Linux, tipo, 2021, ou Macs. Tipo, não dá problemas nenhum, estás a ver? Tipo, Eu acho que aqui é muito diferente, tipo, tipo, é uma diferença de mentalidade muito maior em que, tipo, por exemplo, há uma cena em Rust chamada clone, so you can actually clone anything you want, tipo, you don't have to care about the borrow checker, se quiseres, tipo, se és mesmo chunga, estás a ver? Se és mesmo, tipo, programar a JavaScript, you can just fucking clone everything. Mas, tipo, you're not supposed to do that. E, tipo, tentar-me parar de fazer clone foi, tipo, bué de complicado. Yeah, mas é, tipo, é um shift bué de grande, por acaso.
Olá, boa tarde. Tu falaste aqui que já tinhas experimentado, que já bateste muito código em JavaScript, já experimentaste Rust e trabalhas agora com Rust. A minha dúvida é se alguma vez pegaste em Elixir.
Por acaso, as últimas 2 empresas que eu trabalhei eram Elixir. Eu acho que fui trabalhar para as únicas 2 empresas na Europa que trabalhavam com Elixir. Não sei como, tipo... Há 2 eu trabalhei nas 2, por isso, tipo... Já olhei para Elixir e eu, por acaso, até queria aprender. Parece uma linguagem fixe, mas não... Cheguei a fazer alguma coisa quando trabalhava no Code Sandbox, mas nunca peguei mesmo a sério. Yeah. Mas, trabalhei nas 2, por isso, se tiveres perguntas... Há 2 empresas. Que é? Fair. Mas, tipo, na cena era, tipo, a primeira empresa que eu tive, aquele estava em Elixir, porque o patrão na altura foi tipo, quero aprender Elixir, fodeu, agora ficámos todos com Elixir até o fim do mundo. Porque era, tipo, só, tipo, user authentic, tipo, era main API, estava em Elixir, e depois tudo o resto estava em Node. Tinhas, tipo, microserviços em Node, tipo, espalhados pelo mundo inteiro, basicamente. Mas, tipo, the main thing was Elixir, porque no início foi tipo, I want to learn Elixir, and now I have a startup. So now everyone has to learn Elixir. Great. Thanks.
Por falar em linguagens, Rust não é lá muito conhecido aqui em Portugal pelas empresas, ou pelo menos as empresas não gostam de utilizar. Sabe mais ou menos como é que é lá fora? Ou...
Tipo, tens algumas empresas... Tipo, acho que a cena de Rust que tens agora é tipo... Pode ser mais complicado arranjar trabalho, mas ganhas, tipo, muito mais.
Espero bem.
Não, é verdade.
Espero bem que sim. Já aprendeste aqui, já meti no culto, portanto agora mais vale
Está
ganhar
tudo,
bem.
não precisas fazer mais nada. Diz que leste o livro. Quando alguém te perguntar qual é o livro, tu dizes que leste o livro. Tipo, a cena do Rust é tipo, não há tanta coisa como JavaScript ou tipo, I don't know, a back-end language, mas é tipo, é um bocado tipo Elixir, até, por acaso. Que é tipo, não há tanto, mas ganhas mais, porque é tipo, não há muita gente a fazer. É um bocado a mesma ideia, yeah.
Ok, agora é só encontrar uma empresa que esteja à procura de pessoas que já saibam deste.
Opa, em Berlim tens, agora aqui não sei, honestamente.
Berlim.
Mas tens que aprender alemão, por isso eu não dizia para isso, honestamente.
Sempre quis aprender alemão, por acaso. Portanto,
Já aprendeste
talvez.
alemão? Foda-se, eu estou lá há 4 anos e não aprendi alemão.
Ok,
Sei dizer aeroporto, por isso eu chego onde quero, não te preocupes.
obrigado.
Nada. Está tudo? Oh não, tens ali mais uma. Podes falar, simplesmente.
Se tivesse de escolher entre Rust e uma outra linguagem, por exemplo, funcional, Rust também tem a sua funcionalidade.
Sim.
O que é que escolheria e porquê?
Tipo, eu acho que a minha razão para escolher Rust pode não ser a razão mais, tipo, professional of all of them, mas, tipo, the Rust community is great. Tipo, eu já conhecia bué de gente da Rust community e, tipo, a comunidade que existe agora em Rust é um bocado incrível. Tipo, foi a mesma razão pela qual eu aprendi Vue. There's so many furries, it's great. I'm actually not kidding. My company is 3 people, one of them is a furry. Yes. Mas, tipo, React é tipo, a maior parte do pessoal em cima, tipo, é Mormon, então é tipo... Furries or Mormons? I'm like, just give me a furry any day of the week. Mas, tipo, eu já conheci bué de gente da comunidade do Rust, e por acaso é uma comunidade que é super welcoming, o que eu acho que muitas vezes em linguagens de back-end não são. Tipo, em linguagens de front-end também não, a comunidade de JavaScript às vezes também é muito merda, não te preocupes. Mas, tipo, eu acho que tens menos elitismo também, porque a linguagem é nova, então eles querem que o pessoal aprenda. Tipo, não há muito aquela cena. Tipo, a maior razão pela qual eu neste momento escolheria Rust para pudesse aprender uma língua, até porque eu, antes de entrar para esta empresa já queria aprender Rust, por isso é que eu também entrei para a empresa, foi tipo, it's a new language, it's fast, e tipo, a comunidade é super welcoming. Even if you're not a furry. Mas, tipo, eu acho que... Tipo, isso ajuda bué para aprender uma linguagem, honestamente. Tipo, principalmente se estiveres a aprender, tipo, não estiveres a aprender na escola. And it's really fast. Tipo, Rust is really, really fast. Yeah. Já está a ser usado, tipo, o Firefox é muito mais rápido agora porque a maior parte do Firefox é Rust. Yeah, oh, yeah, a Mozilla contrata o pessoal do Rust. Porque o Firefox é custom Rust. The more you know. The more you know. Mas vais para Berlim, podes. I think we're done. Yes. Yeah? All right, cool.